Yeah.
They are joining.
Let's go forward with regard to case 230763, People versus Taylor. I think that you are about to begin your allocution.
Yes, may I simply add on the last point, our first court appearance was June 16th. She wasn't placed on bond until we went to court in June.
So So I'm just kind of interested, counsel, as to the point that you're trying to make. What's the point that you're trying to make?
I believe in terms of alcohol, she has abstained since the day after the incident through today. She did not go to court until June 16th, when she was placed on bond. And she's abstained from marijuana since that day. Ms. Taylor has 198 days of complete abstinence from alcohol. On her own accord, she started AA in mid-June. She's attended approximately 33 meetings. Ms. Taylor acknowledges she's made a mistake. She's embraced AA, and she knows that she has a problem with alcohol, and she needs AA and the tools of AA.
Oh, let me please stop you, because I don't think that the facts that you are speaking to have the sort of resonance with you that they have with me. So let's assume, for the sake of this discussion, that she did not smoke anything once she was placed on bond conditions. Let's just take that as a given, because I want you to see what it is that I see when I listen to what you're saying. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because she was still getting high up until the time that she was told that she couldn't by the court. Remember, the whole point of this is that she smacked into a tree as a result of driving under the influence. And instead of seeing that as a wake-up call, she continued to find a way to alter her mental state, irrespective of the fact that she had just smacked into a tree. For most people, that would have been a wake-up call to stop using substances to alter their mental state, unless they have a very significant need to continue to alter their mental state.
I have thought in mind. I understand. I appreciate it.
So it's just kind of difficult for me to listen to you say that without, you just need to have some context, like I do, for what it is that we're looking at. So it's not any reason to cheer for her because she hasn't drank alcohol if she's still doing other things to alter her mental state. And this nice letter from the Michigan Medical Billing Services, Ms. Reed, that doesn't matter. You can say all of the glowing things about Ms. Taylor that you like, but we have to deal with the real basic facts of what's in front of the court. And the real basic facts of what's in front of the court is we got a young lady in her early 30s that seems to have the need to alter her mental state. And she did so in a situation where it could have cost her life, but she still continues to get high. Now, I hope that she hasn't found something else that she's doing in response to that continuing need. I don't have anything to suggest that she is, but knowing human nature like I do, I wouldn't be surprised. So let's pick up from there.
Yeah, Sean. To date, Ms. Taylor has attended over 33 AA meetings. Before the March 17th drunk driving incident, Ms. Taylor had no criminal history. She's done well on bond. I don't see her ever coming back to this court. This was a terrible mistake, and she's getting the tools from AA to accept her problem and work through her problem. Thank you, Your Honor.
So what's significance, Ms. Taylor, about you attending AA 33 times? Why is that important?
It is important because I've learned the tools that I need to get through those hard times that led me to drink alcohol and use marijuana. They help me
What does that actually mean?
The AA stops, and I also get to be around people that are sober that encourage me to continue to stay sober.
Okay. So was your lawyer saying that this was a mistake then?
Yes, Your Honor.
Why is he saying that this was a mistake?
Because this isn't the person that I am.
So, yes, you are. Who else are we talking about? I mean, you pled guilty to this, didn't you?
Yes,
Okay, so it is the person you are, isn't it?
it was the person that I was.
Well, that's what we're talking about, is this is the person until you can prove otherwise. This is the person that you are.
I agree very much with that.
I mean, we did not go out and scoop you up off of the sidewalk and accuse you of a crime. You were arrested by the police. And you were arrested by the police because they stopped you after you smacked into a tree. And your blood alcohol was 3 times the legal limit. So it was even beyond super drunk. Super drunk is 0.17, you were 0.25. So I'm not saying that this has to define who you are for the rest of your life, but you only have to rob a bank once to be a bank robber. And if you believe that somehow that this was a mistake instead of a poor decision on your part, because you decided to get behind the wheel of the car after you knew you had been drinking, and our society has told you in many different ways that you are not to do that, and you still did it, then you have allowed yourself to become defined by that moment. And I will tell you this, even though you're not accused of this, it's not the first time that you got behind the wheel of a car and drove after you were drinking. And I only say that to provide you with context for how I think about things. This was not an isolated incident. Yeah, it was an incident isolated in the nature of the accident. The crash, I should call it, not an accident, it's a crash. Tree didn't run out in front of you. You hit the tree. You hit the tree because you're blind drunk. 3 times the legal limit. The law presumes at 0.08 you're no longer able to safely drive your car, that your ability to perceive things and to react to things has been compromised at 0.08, and you were 3 times that level. So it's difficult for me to listen to people say that, I've got this glowing letter about who she is, and she's been abstinent from alcohol, and she is, no. Can't paper over the truth. If we allow you to paper over the truth, then you never deal with the real facts. of how it is that you're standing here talking to me. And if you don't deal with that, then you haven't learned anything. And you're much more likely to go out and do something again. Because it seems like you have a need. And maybe you're dealing with that, but a need to alter your mental state. Doesn't mean that you're a bad person, it just means that you have to deal with the truth. So the question becomes, what do you do about the truth? Well, there are ways to deal with that. And that is to acquire some of the tools, like going to AA meetings and having a sponsor and having people that are part of a new community of folks that will encourage you to remain sober. But that's not really what we're really talking about. We're talking about a lifestyle change that is necessary. I mean, it's cute to do it for purposes of while you're under the court's jurisdiction, but if you go back to your old habits, after we're done with you, we haven't done anything. Whole purpose of probation to me is not probation, it's rehabilitation. Whole purpose being that you change how you think so that you change how you act. That it is not necessarily just for the court that you do that. You do it for you because you see that when you take a step back, you pump the brakes, so to speak, or hit the brakes and you look around at your life and you start to wonder how it is that you ended up in this situation. Well, you ended up in this situation because you weren't paying attention to what was happening with your life. That you had, as I said before, and I'm not holding you responsible for this, probably many times got behind the wheel of a car after you've been drinking. I mean, it would be a huge surprise to me if this was the first time you had a drink and then you got into an accident. Now, usually people die many, many, many times without anything happening, which is why they continue to do it until something devastating happens. So let me circle back to where it was that I was just talking about. This is not just what you're doing for probation. This is what you're doing for you to learn how to think differently, because the way that you were thinking before is what ultimately led you to this situation, that you can drink and drive and there won't be going to be a problem. And now you can see you don't have a crystal ball. You don't know when there's going to be a problem. So you have to learn how to think differently so that you never put yourself in a position of getting behind the wheel of a car after you have been drinking. But in your situation, I think it might even be a little bit deeper than that, because you have this proclivity to want to change how your brain feels. You've changed your chemistry in your brain by virtue of what it is that you've exposed your brain to, whether that's alcohol or THC or whatever. I don't know what else there might be in the offing. Hopefully there's nothing else out there, but if there is, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it would be pretty typical. But this is the real key, what I'm explaining to you now. And that is that this is really not about doing this to stay out of trouble with me or with your probation officer. This is about having a different way of living your life so that you never actually end up in front of another judge for anything else. And if you do this the right way, it is something that you can actually extrapolate from. That it's not just limited to drinking and driving, that you start to look around at the decisions that you make across the board and decide to do better because you have the ability to do better. That you can actually take this situation and, as I said before, learn to extrapolate the lessons that you've learned from this sort of moment of clarity that you're having with me to say that I can have a better life, just generally speaking, because of an awareness of the fragility of life and the decisions that you make. So in a very real sense, this could be like a blessing in disguise that you get that trait. Because you didn't kill yourself, and you didn't kill somebody else, you didn't cripple somebody. And you've had an opportunity to have the pumping of the brakes, as I said earlier, to look around and say, how did I actually land here? What am I prepared to do about it? So it's not just limited to saying I'm not going to ever drink and drive. That should be easy. What else can you extrapolate from this? That's really what I think about. But you don't get there by giving yourself a pass and say, well, this is just a mistake and I haven't had a drink in 20 years, but I smoke a little weed here and there. No. Why are you doing anything? Understanding what happened to you. What is it about you that requires that you alter your mental state? So it's necessary for you to take off that veneer, that sheen of what a nice girl I am and what a nice life I have, and actually deal with the real nuts and bolts of what's going on. I hope that I'm making myself clear.
Yes, Your Honor.
So I've said a lot, but I want to give you an opportunity to speak as well.
I did write a short statement for the courts. I will go ahead and
Please don't read anything to me.
I do understand what you're saying, and I know that my alcoholism isn't just because of drinking. That I have had many difficult things that happened in my life that have led me to want to alter my brain. I have done tremendous self-work to try and understand more about how that's affecting my brain and what I can do to help move past it, because I understand that it's never going to go away. That the only way for me to move forward as a healthy human being is to be able to cope with it in a healthy manner. I do know that once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. It is not a solution at all for anything at this point. I do want to apologize to the township, Wheatville Township, and to the courts for making a poor choice, because I could have hurt somebody else. And the thought I do care about people, and I do care about how it affected everybody. I really relive that day, remember every day. And I don't try, but I use it as a reminder of why it's important for me to find different tools and different ways to be a better person.
So you said once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic.
Yes. I don't think that I realized until this accident that I was an alcoholic.
Well, I think that label is probably not as helpful as you might think that it might be. I think that probably the better course is to try to figure out what it means to be able to identify what your shortcomings are and what to do about it. To me, I think it's important to just understand that you've been given a gift. If you know that you've got a problem, that puts you in a position to deal with the problem, because before there was no acknowledgement that there was a problem. So putting that label of alcoholism on you is going to help you to identify that as a specific problem. Okay, well, so be it. But that's not really the end of the game. The end of the game is, okay, so what do you do about it? What are you going to do about it? And do you understand that this means that you have to be on point for the rest of your life? That you understand that if you are allowed to, you can very easily allow yourself to slip back into old behaviors. So it doesn't matter that you're doing all of these things to try and pull things together if you're not being very serious about what that actually means. It's very easy for your mind to play tricks on you because you've trained your mind to do things differently. And now you've got to retrain your thought process. But that starts with an acknowledgement that there's a problem, that there is an issue that you need to do. This retraining. There is no shortage of people who have had traumatic childhoods and young adulthoods. Almost like a cliche.
Mhm.
But you don't get to choose what life throws at you. The choice is about how you respond. And you can respond in a manner that suggests that you understand that you have an ability to do something much better or not. And you just have to decide that this is the time to do that. Because if not now, then what are you going to do? So don't hide behind platitudes. Deal with the facts and circumstances as they exist. Who am I and how did I land here? What am I prepared to do about it? Don't mean to upset you. I just want you to think, because you have the ability to right your ship. You are the captain of your ship. But if you don't take control, then it doesn't really matter, does it?
No, it does not, Your Honor.
So it's your calling to take control of the ship.
Absolutely.
6 months probation, a $500 fine, $125 state assessment, $575 in court costs, which I find to be reasonable based upon what it costs the court to handle cases like yours. So what we do is we add up that total cost for all of our defendants, and then we divide that number by the number of defendants, and that's how we come up with your pro rata share. $100 cost recovery for law enforcement. That's a placeholder. I don't think we actually received a bill from the Williamston Police Department. And under the law, they're entitled to be able to get their dollar for dollar reimbursement. But if they don't submit anything, then I guess they're not interested. And so that will just turn out to be a placeholder. There's $120 for the prosecutor. There's also $100 for the substance abuse assessment. And then there's $210 in oversight fees, which is what it costs to be on probation for 6 months. So it's $35 a month. So it comes out to $210. So the total is $1,730. Are you in a position to pay that, or are you gonna need some time?
I will need a couple days.
So can you pay it in full within 30 days?
Yes.
All right, so we'll say by November 2nd. Paid in full. You'll meet with probation on a monthly basis, or as directed, I am going to make you eligible for early discharge of your probation. And that means that you would be able to apply for discharge if the goals of rehabilitation have been met, but the prosecutor can file an objection. And you would have to convince me that the goals of rehabilitation have been met. And you can tell from speaking with me that that is something that I take seriously. And we would have a very extensive conversation about whether I believe that the goals of rehabilitation have been met. But I'm going to give that to you as an incentive to do the work, because if you do the work, you can change your life. And it won't just be window dressing, it'll be substantive. Okay? Next, possess, carry, use, or purchase of firearm, ammunition, or other dangerous weapon. Do you own any weapons now?
No, I do not.
Not to violate any criminal laws, any unit of government, having the state without the prior consent of the court. To make a truthful and accurate report to the probation officer. To contact you to notify probation within 24 hours of any change of address on employment and of any contact with the police. So if the police say hi to you or they're directing traffic, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is if you get arrested or detained and questioned by the police. As a matter of fact, you may not actually understand if what you're having with the police is official contact. So what I would do, and I don't usually give people advice, report everything. Because if you fail to report something that is reportable, that is a probation violation and you'll go to jail. So rather than be at odds and having anxiety about whether it was or wasn't something to report it.
Yes, Your Honor.
You to provide proof of healthcare coverage or meet with the healthcare navigators directed by probation. You're not to use, possess, consume, or be in the presence of alcoholic beverages or controlled substances, nor be present in any place where alcohol is sold for consumption in the premises. You're not to use any products that contain alcohol or some other substance that will change your state of alertness or cause you to test positive for a banned substance. So as I've been saying all morning, probation is about rehabilitation, changing how you think so that you change how you act. So there are certain environments that are contrary to your rehabilitation, which is what I just outlined. And now I'm going to give you some examples of that. So for example, you cannot go to a bar, even though you don't have any intentions of having a drink. That would be a violation of probation. Even if you just walked into the bar to put down your money to get a hamburger to take home with you, you have violated probation by walking in the bar. Okay. Same thing would apply to going to a place like a bowling alley or going to a restaurant like with Lobsters or Applebee's or Chili's. You would have to have permission from your probation officer in advance if you wanted to be in an establishment like that, because alcohol is available for consumption on the premises. This would not apply to going to a place like 7-Eleven or Quality Dairy or Kroger's or Myers or places like that, where alcohol is available for people to take home with them. You can't be where people are consuming alcohol, and you can't be, even if it's outdoors, like at a tailgate event or going to a beer tent or going to a concert or sports stadium. Or even going to like a movie theater. Movie theaters obviously have started selling alcohol for consumption. Get permission from your probation officer to be there. Same thing would apply to being around people that have controlled substances, and marijuana is still a controlled substance. And even though the law has changed and now people over the age of 21 can legally possess and use it, it's not a rehabilitative environment for you to be sitting around with your buddies inhaling a secondhand smoke. Or even if they weren't smoking and they had edibles, that is not a rehabilitative environment to be sitting there where your friends are getting high on brownies or whatever they're doing. And obviously, if you can't be around people that can legally use controlled substances, you can't be around people that are illegally using controlled substances. You can't use any substance that contains alcohol or some other substance that would change your state of alertness. That would look like a few different examples that I have. Like using a product like non-alcoholic beer, because non-alcoholic beer actually has alcohol in it. There's alcohol in things like cold medications, and NyQuil is one of the primary examples of that. There's also alcohol in things like mouthwash, like Listerine, or in beverages like Mike's hard lemonade, which is why they call it hard lemonade. There's alcoholic things like these twisted teas and social waters and even energy drinks like Four Loko. And people have actually been known to ingest household products because of their alcohol content. Stuff like hand sanitizer and rubbing alcohol. In fact, people have actually been known to drink things like Sterno fluid. And people continue to snort things like glue, gasoline, and even duster, compressed air. So it doesn't matter if it's household product, you have to be very circumspect about what it is that you're exposing yourself to. So,
Yes, Your Honor.
so I said edibles, and that would apply to you too. So you couldn't say that, well, I had a brownie over my friend's house and I didn't know that it contained THC. You're responsible for what you ingest. So brownies, cookies, gummies, granola bars, suckers, dabs, wax, vapes, K2 cellular spice, 221 cloud 9, and potpourri, or whatever it is that they're calling it, doesn't really matter what they're calling it. If it has something that alters your mental state or causes you to test positive for a banned substance, that is a violation. You're not to abuse prescription and non-prescription drugs and provide verification of any new prescriptions to your probation officer within 48 hours. I'm going to have you continue to attend AA or MA, depending on what's available, so that you're involved in 12-step process. In addition to that, you're to attend and complete counseling as recommended in substance abuse assessment. You're to draft for probation, law enforcement, testing agents, case manager, physician, and counselor. You're to submit to a search of your person, your home, or your car upon the request of either probation or law enforcement officers who have cause to ensure that you're in full compliance with all probationary terms. And if you get placed on electronic monitoring, I am not placing you on electronic monitoring. But if you do get placed on it, it does have GPS capability to tell us where you've been geographically, as well as whether you're in compliance with your curfew. 3 days community service by the end of probation, which is 24 hours, 11 o'clock p.m. curfew. You're to maintain employment as condition of probation. You can keep our medical appointments, follow medical advice, take our medications as prescribed, and sign a release. Your license is subject to suspension and that will be handled by Secretary of State, and upon your master driver's record is maintained by Secretary of State, and you're to submit a fingerprint by law enforcement as directed by probation. Now, despite the fact that I've ordered all these things, you may be able to appeal. If you decide to appeal, you need to do so within 21 days. And if you require the services of an attorney to help you with the appeal and you can afford to hire your own attorney, then you need to let the court know within 14 days so we can refer your case to the Office of the Public Defender and they can evaluate you for eligibility for appellate services. Ms. Taylor, you are now on probation with me as of this moment. Understood?
Yes.
Do you have any questions or concerns?
No, I do not, Your Honor.
So someone from our probation staff will hopefully be reaching out to you by the end of this week, and if not this week, hopefully early next week, to get you some additional information, including a time for you to sit down with them to go over your orders for probation. Okay?
Yes.
Counsel, anything else for you?
No, Your Honor.
All right, then you folks are free to hang up at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Have a good day.
Thank you.